Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stan, and I've been a university guidance counselor for over 10 years now on both the university side and the school side, high school side, in many different countries. And over those years, I've worked with hundreds, perhaps even over 1,000, I haven't done the numbers quite yet, students from many, many different countries and many different walks of life. And it is during that time that I actually came to the conclusion of what I will be talking about today, which is that character is more important than grades. Now, in fact, I still vividly remember how I came to this conclusion. The first time it was sparked was back in my first high school counseling position. I was a new counselor, and I remember having two students. Both students were good students in terms of grades. One of them was number one in the class. Number one, unbeatable. And in fact, he had the highest SAT score I've ever come across in my life, which is a perfect SAT score of 1,600. Just to put that in perspective, only about 300 to 500 students per year achieve a perfect SAT score out of over 2 million students who take the test. It's the only one I've ever seen in my career thus far. The other student was also quite good in grades, number 3 in the class, but still had good grades and had a quite high SAT of 1560. They both applied to the same university and for the same major. One of them got accepted and the other got rejected. And I assume by the title of the talk today, you can already guess who got accepted and who got rejected, but it was not the obvious one. Student B, the one who had good grades, but not necessarily the top grades, got accepted. And the one who had the best grades and the best SAT I've ever seen out of hundreds of students in my entire career got rejected. Now, obviously, this caused quite a commotion in the community. People were shocked. Both students were shocked. The one who got accepted was shocked, happy, but shocked. And the one who got rejected was obviously quite devastated and could not understand what was happening. That day I had to answer many questions. It got me thinking, what went on here? What happened? How did this end up happening? And what I noticed was that student A had great grades, amazing grades. And what else did he have? Well, even more good grades, right? He had a lot of good grades. In essence, he was very studious. The second student, meanwhile, on top of being studious and having good grades, also had some unique character traits that he had developed over the years. One of the most important ones that you have probably heard before was growth mindset. One of the things that really got him into the university, they were applying for computer science, was that he had created an app for the App Store. And by the time he applied, he had over 100,000 downloads and was selling it for $1 each. So he already had enough money to pay for 2 years of his university. However, to reach that, he had created over 6 apps. All of them had failed before that in terms of not getting any downloads. However, each one was better than the last. And he kept going, he kept trying until he got the one that actually had all those downloads. That is the definition of growth mindset. On top of that, this student had purpose, a pretty noble purpose. The student had told me several times and had communicated this throughout the application that they wanted, or their purpose, their goal was to enter technology to help increase access to technology in education. And in fact, his app in the App Store was a calculator app designed for high school students. So he was definitely showing that he was on his way to reaching that purpose. Now, I think it's important for us to kind of look at what do we mean by character? What is character? Because it can be one of those words that is thrown around a lot, but people don't really fully understand what it is. If we look at a dictionary, it'll say that it's the particular combination of qualities in a person or place that makes them different from others. Well, I think we can go beyond that, because we're definitely not talking about places today, right? We're talking about people. So I prefer saying that it's the set of qualities, traits, and values that shape who we are as individuals. There are hundreds of character traits out there, and we all have a different combination of these traits. I have put some of the most impactful ones here. You've probably heard of many of these, and you've seen them, and you probably have a lot of these. Courage, curiosity, gratitude, grit, creativity, perspective-taking, purpose, compassion. People often forget about that one, but it can be really important. Now, all of these character traits are obviously important, but I'm going to highlight a few of them and why they're important, okay? Curiosity is one of the most important ones. And research shows that students and people who are curious learn more, because that is, in essence, the thing that motivates learning, curiosity. If you're not curious, you're not going to learn. You're not going to search for information. So if you're a curious individual, you will succeed in high school. You will get those good grades via your character traits. And you will succeed in university. And you will likely succeed later on in your career and in life, because you will constantly be learning the latest things, okay? Another big one is grit. Grit, again, based on research, grit has been shown to be a higher predictor of success in both high school, university, and careers than IQ. Okay, so a lot of people think, you have to be smart to be successful. But actually, being smart is not enough, right? You can be very smart and not do anything. You can be very smart and be lazy. And that's what we call wasted talent or wasted potential. On the other hand, you might not be the person with the highest IQ, but if you're there working day in and day out towards your goal, it's almost guaranteed that you will reach further. Growth mindset, another very, very important one. Another basis for learning and becoming better and better is understanding that you won't be perfect from the very first try. You will fail. You will fail many times, whether it's in a sport. No one is born knowing how to throw a basketball into a basket. You will fail many times before you actually achieve it. But if you give up the first time you fail, you will never achieve that basket. Compassion. This is another important one, and universities really value it, as I'll show you in a bit. Compassion is very important because it enables people to think about the greater good, about the good of other people. And if you look at people who are highly successful, that's what they're doing. It's easy to see it sometimes in things like doctors or nurses, right, or teachers, right? But it's also in businessmen, businesswomen, right? If you really think about it, the highly successful businesswoman or businessman is going to be thinking about how to help other people with their product, with their service. In the end, if they are passionate about helping others, their product will be better. And purpose. Purpose is another huge one. Purpose allows you to be gritty, allows you to have growth mindset. So what do we mean by purpose? Having a goal that is beyond yourself. Having a goal that is greater than yourself. For example, the student who got into the university we talked about earlier. Now, universities, as a counselor, I'll focus on that one, definitely know this. So this is a survey given to admissions officers in top universities. As you can see, they were asked to rank how important character was in their admissions decisions to university. If you look at all the respondents on top, 25% and 44% said it was moderate or considerably important, and a low majority said not important or limited importance. However, if you go down and you go to the more selective universities, those are the universities that are going to be a bit harder to get into, then it becomes 0, say it's little important or non-important. 100% will say it's either moderate or considerably important. And how do they know? How do they see character in your application? Well, they'll look at it in these areas. They'll look at the essays and personal statements of students. So students will talk about what they did, right? And through the actions that they did, you will be able to glean that character. You'll be able to see when they talk about being, in the swimming pool every morning at 5 a.m., even though they had to get good grades and wake up early and not sleep enough, but they wanted to be, the best swimmer they could be. Well, there you go. That's grit. That's perseverance. They can see it in the student who, wasn't very good at tennis, but he kept trying and kept trying and kept trying until he got better and ended up winning the national championship, for example. They'll see it in teacher or counselor recommendations. The teachers will talk about the student's character, what they did. They'll mention the student having to fail many times in a robotics competition before finally being able to succeed and win. They'll talk about how the student was very honest and helped others, helped their classmates. And they'll also look at it in terms of their extracurricular activities. People often think universities want students to have tons of extracurricular activities, and sometimes students do them for the wrong reason. They think that they need a long list of extracurricular activities, but actually universities don't value the extracurricular activities per se. That's not what they're looking at. They're looking at what's beneath that. They value the extracurricular activities because they develop your character, and they allow you to show your character. So actually, when they're looking at extracurricular activities, they're looking at character. So a student who takes a lot of extracurricular activities and just lists them down is not necessarily gaining a full benefit of it if they're not really developing their character. And we can see this also in what they say. This is from MIT. They literally have it on the website, and they'll say they're looking for curiosity, risk-taking, initiative, hands-on creativity. We can see it in the essay questions. Universities will ask you to write an essay or personal statement. These are some of the questions. What have you done to make your school or your community a better place? Now, if you read that from a character-based understanding, now you're going to understand what they really want to know there. They don't really want to know about necessarily the project you did. They want to see, do you have compassion? How did you develop that character trait? Describe the most significant challenge you have faced and the steps you have taken to overcome this challenge. How has this challenge affected your academic achievement? I think by now you can guess what this one is looking for. That's right. Growth mindset. Okay, failure. Failing and then getting back up. Facing challenges and being able to keep going. Grit, perseverance. The lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Same. Describe a time you had a challenge, setback, or failure. This one is from Common Application. Coalition. Tell a story from your life. Describe an experience that either demonstrates your character or helped to shape it. That one is very direct. Describe a time when you made a meaningful contribution to others in which the greater good was your focus. This one is compassion, but it's also purpose. You can talk about your purpose here. Now let's go back to why character is more important than grades. Character will have a long-term impact on your life. Your character will impact your university application for undergraduate studies. Then it'll impact your graduate applications for your master's, your PhD, your ability to succeed in all of those, to finish your thesis, to obtain your PhD. It will impact the ability to get your next job, to succeed in your next job. Your grades, they will have a much shorter impact. Your grades will have an impact on the next step. Your high school grades will impact your university entrance. But then when you apply for your master's degree, they don't care what grades you got in high school. Your master's degree grades will impact your first job. You'll proudly put it on your resume. But your second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth job, they don't care what your grades were. They care what you did. And that is through your character. So, students should actually be focused on definitely trying to get good grades, but also developing their character. And how? How can you develop your character? There's 4 key areas that you can use to develop character. First, you need to know that it takes time. It's not something that is done immediately. But number 1, you should set goals. So set goals for yourself on specific character traits you want to develop. Whether it's honesty, empathy. It's much easier for you to develop something if you actually set a goal for it. Number 2, self-reflection. Make sure that you reflect on yourself. This is very important. You don't know what character needs work, what character trait needs work if you don't reflect on yourself. Set time to think, to go and get introspective and think about yourself. your character traits and what you want to develop. Number 3, act. This is probably the most important one. Character traits and characters develop through action. All of the character traits involve action. Empathy, you're doing something, you're helping others. Growth mindset, you're doing something, you're becoming better. Grit, you're doing something, you're persisting in something. So volunteer, get involved in community service, join that soccer team, basketball team, because this is where you're going to be developing those traits. And this is also where you're going to develop your purpose. And 4, find role models. Role models are very, very important, whether they're teachers, celebrities, influencers, parents, successful people in different careers. Find people that you can look up to who have those character traits, because then you can model them and you can develop those same character traits. And finally, please do get good grades, okay? You still need those, just don't make it the only thing you do, because in the end, your character is more important than your grades. Thank you very much.